in 2022. So in 2022, I think I was just about a year into biking. I decided that around my birthday, which is August 28th, so around August, maybe end of August to into September, I'd always do motorcycle trip kind of to celebrate my birthday. So in 2022, I did a solo trip to Samburu, towards the northern Kenya. So from Nairobi towards Nyeri to Nanyuki to Isiolo, and then from Isiolo to Samburu all the way past Archer's Post. Past Archer's Post, I went all the way to Mount Ololokwe. At the time, I was riding a Binelli 302, which I stayed with for a while. Yeah. So after that, after doing that trip solo, I mean, before that, I thought that it felt like something that was gonna be really hard and challenging and all that. But when I did it, it felt like I was really excited and happy to do it. Of course, it was quite a distance. I think it was about 700 to and fro. So from Archer's Post, so I went to the local, came back, slept at Archer's Post, and then the following day I left Archer's Post, and then I went through like around Mount Kenya, I think. So from Archer's Post came back to Isiolo, and then I went to Meru. Then from Meru I used like the Meru routes back to Nairobi. Yeah, so after that trip, I was like, okay, so maybe if I want to do this yearly, kind of try to do it differently sometimes when I can, right? So I decided that the 2023 ride, I was going to try and do it out of the country, not just within Kenya. So I shared the idea with members of our squad, which is the riding club that I ride with often. And most of them were really for the idea, right? Although they'll tell you differently how the idea came to life, or how the idea was conceptualized, because different people want to claim credit for it, but that's not the point, anyways. So after sharing the idea with them, I think it was around January of 2023, either December 2022 or January 2023. So we were like, okay guys, in August let's ride to Kampala. So of course it's riding out of the country requires a lot more planning compared to what you typically do within Kenya, right? So it needed lots of financial planning, getting documents, arranging for time out for people at work. So it needed a lot more coordination. So of course we needed a lot more time to do it. So from January till August, we were just doing lots and lots of planning. And during that phase, we also did a couple of rides here and there together, some people individually as well, just to prepare ourselves for the long distance of riding that we had to do. So we, at that point, all I knew is that in August, I'm gonna ride from Nairobi to Kampala, and then from Kampala Kampala and then to Entebbe, and then from Entebbe back to Nairobi with the squad. So as time advanced, there's a colleague of mine who was having a wedding, Koinsula, was having a wedding in Kigali. So when they shared the wedding dates, and I had a look at and compared with the dates that we were planning to travel to Entebbe, I realized that, it was just like 2 weeks apart. So I was like, okay, so do I ride from Nairobi to Entebbe and then ride back, and then like a week or two later leave again from Nairobi to Kigali on a flight? So I was like, okay, maybe there's an idea and an opportunity here, right? So I decided to, so I checked all the prices of flights at the time, and then I realized that, well, the prices of flights had gone really high. So when I looked at the prices of flights and then I calculated the amount of fuel I needed, I was like, maybe this is my chance to just go straight to Kigali instead of heading back to so heading back to Nairobi. So then, I told the rest of the crew that I was still gonna do the ride with them all the way to Entebbe, but from Entebbe I won't be coming back to Nairobi. I'll continue into Kigali, and then of course, So I was like, okay, once I get to Kigali, then obviously I'm not coming back with the same route. So I was like, okay, maybe I go through Tanzania. Then one of my friends, Brian was like, okay, so since you Kigali already, why not just do Burundi and just finish the East Africa? I was like, it doesn't sound like a bad idea. So then I changed to, I was just gonna go round, right? So that's how the idea came into being. So on the a few days leading on to the trip, well, maybe a month and a half. So at the end of towards the end of June, we were just doing lots of prep. I unfortunately got into an accident towards the end of June, and I was worried that I wasn't sure that I was gonna be fully healed by the time of the trip, and also wasn't sure that have compensation from insurance, and repaired my bike before then. But luckily everything kind of fell into place, and my bike was ready before the trip. Did lots of prep, just regular servicing of the bike to prepare it for long distance. Things like changing the spark plugs, servicing my suspension. Just checking lots of checks. So most of these, if not pretty much everything, I do by myself, so that I get to understand a lot more about how my bike works. But also going long distance with the bike means that if something breaks down when I'm away out there, then I need to have an idea, if not to know what's happening, right? So lots of the prep and the repairs I do by myself, just to, I enjoy it, but also to get an understanding and know my bike properly, especially ahead of the long distance rides. So we had set the dates that we were leaving on the 23rd of August in the morning, and my squad is pretty strict with time. So we were like, on the 23rd at 9 a.m. Well, I think it was like 7:30. So it said 7:30 a.m. If you're not there by 7:30, people will leave, and you kind of have to catch up. So the 23rd of August came, and the previous night, the 22nd, as has been kind of a weird pattern with me, I hadn't packed. Pretty much everything was just scattered. Like, guys had packed their stuff, they've tied them to the bikes. For me, and I hadn't done anything really apart from me just putting my documents together. So had to wake up early to pack. I did some packing at night as well, and then in the morning, 7:30 came. I wasn't ready. Most of the guys were already at the meeting points. They waited till 9 a.m. I was just leaving my house. They called me. They're like, "Where are you?" I'm like, "Okay, I'm coming." So I was late. I got to the meetup point. They were not there. I figured they had gone. So so I had to try catch up with them. So now we had left Nairobi going towards Nakuru. So I get to viewpoints. I think they had passed viewpoints. I got to viewpoint, still couldn't see them. I kept going. So I was riding really fast to try catch up with them. So I caught up with them maybe around Kimende, I think. Yeah, I think so. Maybe around Kimende, Oko. So that's why I caught up with them. And then now from Kimende, we continued riding together all the way past Naivasha to Nakuru. So our designated stop was at Ngata, which is just a few kilometers past Nakuru. So there's a Rubis petrol station there where we stopped. So we stopped there to rest, hydrate, get breakfast. Well, we just left Nairobi kind of like 2.5 hours ago. We're in Ngata, heading to Kisumu, and then to Uganda tomorrow. and then we hit the road again. So from Ngata, if you've used that road from Ngata to Kericho, oftentimes you can do that distance pretty fast because not so much busy traffic, especially past the Maimahiu interchange or Maimahiu junction. So those distances you can really push the bike, right? So we kept going. At this point, it's myself, Eddie, Pauline, Peter, and Dennis. So we're all part of my riding squad. And Frida, who had left a few days earlier, we were supposed to meet her at Ahero Junction. So she had gone through Nandi and she was like doing her, kind of like pre-tour, and then we were to meet up at some point. So past the Mausami Junction, clear roads, we're all pushing our bikes, we're going, it's fun, listening to music, riding really nicely. And then Dennis was ahead of me, so I was sweeping, I was at the back. I think I was there, me at the back, and then Pauline, and then I think Wilberforce, then Dennis, and then I think Eddie was at the front. So at that point, open roads, people open up their bikes. So Wilberforce, who rides he rides a CBR 250, pushes his bike and then goes past Dennis, and then I see the corners and I'm like, okay, on a 650, I was like, okay, let me go. So I passed, and then so since we both passed Dennis also tried pushing his the Great Haojin. So kept pushing his bike, and then at some point Wilberforce would pass Dennis and then tell him, you need to catch up. His bike has kind of run out of power. So in the process of doing that, all we just realized that all of a sudden Dennis started losing speed, and we were like, okay, what's happening? I'm looking at my mirror and the distance is just growing, and now Wilberforce is ahead of me and he's going. So I noticed that the speed, Dennis is falling back, Eddie was behind him, so I see Eddie and Dennis like kind of falling back, but Wilberforce is still going. So since I was the one sweeping and on a bigger bike, I had to essentially chase Wilberforce and flag him down because I figured something wasn't okay. So I chased Wilberforce, flagged him down, and then I came back to, at that time Eddie and Dennis had parked their bikes by the roadside. So I'm like, okay, what's happening?
Sasa huyu ameharibu pikipiki.
Kukula plug.
Huyu injini yake imegonga plug kichwa.
Amedishi plug.
Sasa wana amesimama kando ya barabara. Uni CEO wa Africa Vacation Safaris. Ameharibu pikipiki.
Ametafuna plug.
Sasa tumeita mtu hapa. Angalau amvrute. Angalau avrutwe tuone vile tutamsaidia.
And then just from Dennis's face, I figured something wasn't right. So then he goes ahead and explains that he just had like a very expensive noise from his engine. At first he thought his chain had cut and was about to lock the wheel. The wheel did not lock. The bike just went off, but it couldn't start. So we checked it out, trying to figure out what's happening. He has the kick. What is it called? The kicking thing, isn't it? The kickstart. Yeah, he has the kickstart. The kickstart was like locked, so we knew there was a problem in the engine. And then, so when we opened up the spark plug area, we found the spark plug had been hit by the piston. So, and the piston also had like a hole there. So at that point, we knew, that's a very huge damage and not just something you can fix around. So now remember, we just left Nairobi on that day. The plan was for us to go all the way. I was gonna go home to sleep at my parents, and then these other guys would proceed to Bumala, which is closer to Busia, then admit them the following day. So it's quite a distance. So now we are not even at Kericho, and Dennis's bike, the piston and the spark plug have kind of hit. Now that's a very big issue. So we look around, get some boda guy who ties the bike, like tows the bike with a rope.
Huyu sasa tunataka kuvuta pikipiki yake.
And then we try to look for some local mechanic. So now the local mechanic looks at the bike. And then, of course, we needed to get new pistons. I think kind of like the new, I think maybe the whole cylinder block, because also some of the valves were broken. So we check, okay, where's the closest place we can get these things? And then now the closest place was Nakuru. So I had to go back. So they were like, okay, you're the one with the fastest bike. Please go back to Nakuru and buy these parts and then come back. So I was like, okay, I mean, at that point, it's about maybe like 3, 4 p.m. So I ride back to Nakuru, come back. By the time I'm back to, what was the name of that place? I don't remember exactly. I rode back from Kipkelion to Nakuru, bought the parts, came back. By 5:30 I was back. Now, when I came back, we realized that one, from the descriptions they'd given me, I had bought the wrong parts. Engine parts. So, of course, not compatible. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm not going back to Nakuru. So we kind of have to figure out how this works. So they called some local mech, another one now. So there are 2 mechanics trying to work on it. They were trying to piece things together here and there, whatever was happening. We tried starting the bike. For a long time, it wouldn't start. Some point it started, but like it would only ride a short distance, then go off. Then starting it was a problem. You have to kick it so many times. Anyway, finally it started. And we told Dennis to sit on the bike, so the moment it starts, he just rides away. So that's what we did, and then he sat on the bike, rides away. We got onto the tarmac, keep going, and now the stretch between that place and Kericho is uphill. So meaning your bike or even car needs to, it needs to be generating so much power for it to go up. So we get to the hills, and then Dennis's bike just starts falling back again, and we're like, oh man, it's not even 5 kilometers since we left. I don't even think it did even 3 kilometers. Then it started slowing down, losing compression, and then it went off again. So now it's in the middle of it's the forested area. It's now around 8 p.m. It's dark. That forested area, his back is falling behind. So I'm like behind him, I'm slowing down, and then he's just slowing down, and then finally his bike stalls. So about maybe 200 meters, I see there's like now the beginning of street lights in the tea plantations. So I tried telling him, Dennis, just push to the lights. He's like, man, I can't do it. I don't have any power. At that point, it's very frustrating because I'm like, yo, dude, okay, fine. I mean, we're all tired, and your bike is not moving. What's happening? So I passed him, went all the way to where the street lights had started. I parked my bike in the lights, and then now I came back on foot. And then I came back on foot. Now I was pushing his bike uphill. Actually, when I got to Dennis, he had stopped and then he has put his head on the tank like this, and it was just like, man, like he was so frustrated. So at that point I'm like, yo, but okay, fine, I get you frustrated, fine, let's just get the bike out of the darkness and somewhere where there's light. So we pushed the bike uphill onto the lights. So at that point we're like, the closest place is Kericho, but also because at that time now it was about maybe 10 p.m. So like at this time, there's not really much we're gonna do in Kericho anyways. So at first we thought we leave the bike, we find a way to get the bike to Kericho, then wait the following day, and then it's repaired, and we keep going. But then we figured Kericho might not be the best place. So Abson Motors, which is the dealer for Haojin, has a branch in Kisumu. So like, okay, maybe getting the bike to Kisumu would be best, and then we just take it to Abson, and then they repair it, and then, the journey continues. So we were lucky to get a Pro Box. So we got a Pro Box. The seats were folded. His bike fairly light, so We just put it on its side and then put it inside the pro box. And then Dennis also got into the car.
So the bike came alive and then it died again. So it's being carried in this car. Like Kisumu, where it can hopefully be repaired to Uganda. All these other guys are refueling. It's almost midnight right now.
The car went all the way to Kisumu. Dennis went to Abson Motors. He slept just close by. He parked his, I think he put his bike just at their gate so that when they come in the morning, they just can just start fixing it. So, yeah, so he slept in Kisumu. At that point now, remember we were supposed to meet Frida at the Awasi Junction, close to Ahero. And in the original plan, we were supposed to meet her at about 2 p.m. and then pass by my home, say hi to my mom, and then take lunch at our home. And then after lunch, then proceed. So now we are very late. My mom keeps calling me, telling, hey, they've cooked, they're waiting for us. At that point, we're still stuck in Kericho. So with time, they keep checking in, and they're like, at some point, they're like, you know what, it doesn't make sense for you guys to pass by anymore because of time. So, you know, maybe just let's just see how you can get the farthest you can do today. So then now Dennis has gone with the Pro Box and his bike, and it's about now 10, close to 11 p.m. So now it's me, Eddie, Pauline. Yeah, it's just me, Eddie, Pauline, and Wilberforce Peter. Frida, who we were supposed to meet at Awasi Junction, which was still further ahead, now it had gotten late. She had like gotten like a guest house and checked in, and she was just chilling and sleeping. Yeah, so for her, she was just, at some point she knew that, you know, we were not gonna make it that day, so she just got accommodation and slept there. So now the four of us, now for me, we were just about, so from Kericho to our home is about maybe 50, 60 kilometers. So for me, I knew I'd just ride and then I go home, then I can sleep home. But now the problem was the rest of these guys needed to get closer to Busia. That's where they were gonna stay. So at first I asked them, okay, maybe you guys sleep in Kisumu. You know, sometimes I don't know how people make decisions on bikes, but it's weird. So these guys still had about almost like 200 and something kilometers to do if they wanted to get to where they wanted to. At that point is like past 11, almost midnight. So I'm like, guys, maybe you guys sleep in Kisumu and then proceed tomorrow. These guys decided that they were not going to sleep in Kisumu and they were gonna go. So for me, past Kericho, it was dark. I was very sleepy, and I think that's one of the days. Yeah, I think on that trip, that's the first time that even like riding before, that's the first time that I felt really, really sleepy while riding. So I was very sleepy. And being at night, so of course I was riding very slowly. Pauline also was now slowing down. So Eddie and Peter were on something. They were riding so fast at night. So we split up. So Eddie and Peter kept going. They were chasing each other. I was like, okay, you guys, you do your thing. And then now Pauline and I stayed back. So we're just riding slowly on the twisties because, you know, those roads, you've got to be careful. You can easily run out of the road. So went slowly until I got to the Ahero Junction. And then from the junction now, Eddie and Peter had slowed down because Pauline needed to join them. And then I branched and went home. I got home at about maybe 1 something, almost 2 a.m. And yeah, I was very sleepy. So I got home, you know, just showered, ate, and took a rest. I think, so the group that was going closer to Busia got to where they were going at maybe like 4 something, almost 5 a.m. Yeah, so that was the end of an eventful day one. So at this point, remember, Dennis is in Kisumu at Abson Motors, waiting for his bike to be fixed the following day. I am in Nyakach, where my parents stay. So that's where I was spending the night. I wanted to see them before I go on the trip because I was going to be away for a long time. And then now Pauline, Eddie, and Peter are in Bumala, which is just a few kilometers from Busia, where they were staying at at Eddie's mom's house home, and then Frida now was the one that was left behind. Frida now was still at Awasi, of course, chilling and sleeping and living her best life. So now that is the end of day one, which turned out to be very eventful.